this event to provide you with a chance to meet and learn from some truly Korean American inspirational figures. CEO, judge, a professor, and entrepreneur. They are all proud Korean Americans and all highly respected role models in mainstream society. And I assume you would face similar challenges during your life journey into American society. You may bump into same obstacles or have to break a similar glass ceilings as your respective role models did. First generation and second generation Korean immigrants have their own stories to tell you, which appears to be very different at first sight. How they began their own personal journeys, what was personal inspirations and challenges along the way, how they overcame their difficulties. But I believe while their paths in life differ, they share many things in common. The values these great men and women have held, the efforts they have made for self-improvement and community service, and the way they have dealt with difficult situations. Sharing their experiences and challenges, along with personal career success stories, we would encourage you, number one, to learn and understand these other generations more deeply. Number two, to find the common theme or spirit beneath their stories. Number three, to establish your own unique identity as Korean American.
Like Esther, you were kind of a groundbreaker. You kind of went into this field. A lot of obviously Asians go to law school and into the legal field, but you were the first Korean American woman to become a judge, and I'm sure at that time that was considered groundbreaking. First, you always sometimes are proud to be the first, but it had never happened before. So tell me what that experience was like from an identity perspective for you too.
All right. Well, it kind of goes to why I wanted to become a judge. Actually, when I applied to law school, I really didn't know any Korean American attorneys, so I had really no role models. Traditionally, you're asked to become, maybe go into medicine, engineering. Actually, my dad wanted me to become the next Chung and be a journalist, because you're looking for a role model, right? But I went into law school because I took a class at UC Berkeley called Asian Americans and the Law, because I wanted to just kind of find out. And I learned so much. And I also met really great Asian American attorneys. They were mostly Japanese American who inspired me to go into law. So that's why I went to law school, and it's similar to why I became a judge. I was very active in the Korean American Bar Association here in Los Angeles, KAC, a lot of community organizations, because by that time, I knew I was Korean and American. I wasn't ashamed of being Korean, which I was when I was younger, because I wanted to fit in. But my identity had solidified by then, and I wanted to improve our status in the mainstream society. And I know even maybe your parents will remember the LA riots, and that was a huge event for those of us who were involved in the community at the time. And our community suffered so much, and we had such little or no voice in city government, county government, even state level, to try to rebuild or even get reparation for the losses that our community members suffered. And we decided as lawyers, we need to empower ourselves. It's not enough just to be in the law and practicing law and doing law days and doing little pro bono work. It was not enough. So we said we need to get ourselves appointed, to higher levels. And so we said we need to get judges who are Korean Americans appointed. And at that time, I believe a lot of young people also applied to become active in political scene, be field aides for city council members, board of supervisor members, assembly members.
This is like the 1990s.
Yeah, this is like the 1990s. I know it's way before you guys were
around,
born.
yeah. This is history, folks.
Yes.
This is history.
So that inspired me to think about becoming a judge. At that time, I was still a young attorney, so I wasn't eligible to apply, but that inspired me, and we started looking for people in our community who could become judges.
But can I ask you something,
Yes.
Tammy? At that time, being a young lawyer, Korean American female, did you even think it was possible? Because we put barriers in front of us, either psychologically or physically, or other people say, no, you can't do that. So did you face that yourself? Did you have the confidence thinking, I'm going to be a judge at some point? Or were people saying, no, not so much?
No, I think I decided to become a judge myself, like close to when I applied, like 2001.
That's great.
We did not have a Korean American judge, but I knew other Asian American female judges. The first Asian American female judge is a Japanese American judge, and she got appointed in the 70s. So we had female judges who are Asian American already on the bench, few compared to, of course, others or male judges. But I did have some, I guess, in a way, people who look like me who were judges. But I think the main reason was that I wanted our community to be noticed, to have a voice. And that was the way that I could contribute that way. And then after that, I'm happy to report we now have more than 12 Korean American judges just in LA County, and 9 of them are women.
Let me go to Charlie, Mr. Yim. He is first generation, obviously, immigrant. Like I said, he came after in the late 60s and built this incredibly successful business, but also was a public servant. But for you, Charlie, I would think that it was an incredibly challenging time, because that was when Koreans were just first coming to the United States to immigrate. And so it was totally foreign. Nobody knew what Koreans were, even though we had, the US had gone to a war in the peninsula. The average person knew nothing about Korea. They didn't even know where it was. They didn't even know who we were, right? They usually thought we were Chinese or Japanese. So Charlie, if you could share with us what your experience was like back then when you first came, and what your identity, like how did you grapple with the identity of being Korean, but then also living here in America and not really seeing that many others around you?
I came to America all by myself, and I was a student at San Diego State University. The first semester, I need to get a job because I don't have any relatives, I don't have any sponsors. I was all alone. So I had to pay tuition and room and board. I need a job. But my English was very poor. So I asked my senior Korean student who spoke English, well, let's get a job. We need job hunting. So I said, okay, let's go. Let's go to University Avenue, and there are many businesses there. So we went around and we failed because in 60s, American economy was pretty bad. They are having recession. I cannot give it up. I have to get a job. And I came up with an idea. Maybe I will work for nothing. 공짜로 일하겠습니다. Can you think about that? Anybody? But I don't know how to say 공짜로 일하겠습니다. So I asked senior Korean student, how do you say 공짜로 일하겠습니다? He said, oh, it's easy, I will work for nothing. And he said, you are stupid. He's very upset. I didn't bother to respond. I went straight to the campus restaurant, met the manager, George. His name was George. And I told George, I need a job. I will work for nothing. He looked at me funny because he never heard that story from anybody. And here's a young man. He said, ask him job, and he's going to work for nothing. And then he smiled me back. He took me to the restroom. He showed me to clean. Public restroom. I said to myself, wow, what a good opportunity here. And I cleaned and cleaned and cleaned, and it looked so good, and the smell so good, and you can sleep there even. And George came by. Whoa, he looked impressed. He said to me, Chun, you got a job. I will work for nothing attitude. It's only few words. One sentence. But it talks about your attitude. Your attitude is everything. When you go out to the society, you got to have a right attitude. That attitude, very innovative, creative, courageous, committed, and unselfish attitude. That's what you need. Willing heart to help, willing heart to serve. That's what I wanted to talk to you. Thank you.
Now that's inspirational, isn't it? Yeah. When was it, or when did it happen for you where you realized that there was a generational gap to a certain extent between maybe you, your parents, or your grandparents? And did you go through the challenges that most of us do because of that gap? And then when did you finally realize, wait, I need to start appreciating perhaps, what the previous generations, set forth for me? So did you first struggle between generations?
So I came to the United States when I was almost 10. So I had started 4th grade. I was really excited to come to the United States. I thought Disneyland was going to be in my backyard. And then we went to Guam, in the small island in the middle of the Pacific, because my dad was working there. That's why we went. I embraced American culture. My dad was forward-thinking. He spoke English pretty well, and he forbade us from speaking Korean so we could learn English as quickly as possible. I love learning a new language, the culture, so I embraced becoming an American. When I came to the mainland, California, in Northern California, I thought this is going to be great, just like it would be in Guam. But then it was different because it was kind of like Calabasas in Northern California. I was the only Korean American in the whole school till I was junior. And then a Korean family arrived in my town, and I tried to avoid them as much as possible because they look so Korean. It's like you could smell Korean from them. And I go, I don't want any of my friends to think I'm Korean just like them, right? So I did go through that identity crisis. It wasn't until I got into college when somehow I got introduced to some Korean kids. And they spoke Korean to each other. They wanted to eat Korean food. And I thought, hey, I could eat Korean food with them without worrying about bad breath. And so it took me a year to actually start speaking Korean again, because I hadn't spoken to anyone my age for a long time. So I discovered in a way that I had a lot in common with other Korean Americans. But because I came here so young, and I've been here a really long time, I identify English is my primary language, even though I do speak Korean. I don't speak Korean at all at my work. And my whole career has been in English, right? Everything is in English. When I went to school, my parents never went to a single open house, parent-teacher conference, because what can they do? They can't even really speak very well. When I applied to college, my parents couldn't guide me at all, because they had never applied to college in the United States. They couldn't tell me to take, classes to help the SAT, nothing. They didn't know anything. I only heard about it through my friends. I only applied to one college, and that was the day before it was due, because I didn't know that it was college app time. So that's where, so a lot of your parents are gonna say the same thing. They grew up, they had to learn everything by themselves. They did not have parents who kept track of what was going on in school, volunteer at school. We did not have parents like that. When I was growing up, so I had to, now that I'm a parent, I make up for it, for my parents not being there for me. I try to get involved. I try to talk to the teachers. I go to every open house, back to school night. But I know that I am different from a lot of the parents that are Korean American, because I came over when I was so young. So actually, a lot of my kids say I'm different. We are different, my husband and I. Even though we're Korean Americans, we speak English at home 99% of the time. And so my kids don't really speak Korean either. But they know they're Korean American, and they have other Korean American friends, but their parents don't have the same advantage that I had, which is coming to the United States at a very young age. So what I want to say in this remark is that you have to understand your parents. Like, give them a break. You know, it's hard for a lot of them to come to the United States. Can you imagine if you had to go to like Greece and then, you know, all of a sudden, you know, work there, try to become successful, didn't go to school there or didn't grow up there, and then try to survive speaking Greek? I mean, that would be really hard for you, right? So it's hard for your parents. It's really hard for your parents if they're first generation here, even 1.5. It's hard for them. Culture is different. You know, they have to compete with people. They have network already, you know. So try to be understanding of your parents. It's hard for them to survive in this country and try to be successful. They're pouring out everything to you because they want you to be successful. You know, my parents didn't know how to help me. I was very fortunate along the way, having a lot of mentors and role models. But I look back now and I'm thinking, I don't think I could have done much more for my kids if I were my parents.
For you younger people, do it now, before it's too late. I don't want to make this sound morbid, but yeah, just do it now. Appreciate your parents and your family. Charlie, you wanted to have...
I came to America empty-handed, and I got to work hard, and I don't have time to think about generation gap. And America is the society of freedom and liberty. America pushes you, future-oriented, self-reliant, with a pioneering spirit. America wants you to be creative, innovative, courageous. And I believe in creating something from nothing. I believe in creating possibility from impossibility. That's how I created 30 plus businesses. And that's how I ventured more than 60 real estate development, including 5 Hilton hotels and 15 shopping centers. And that's a lot. And I wanted to say, while doing all this, you gotta have a sense of humor. The sense of humor is very powerful. I'll tell you the story. I got a job at the Oceanside Lumber Company, and they gave me a job to answer the phone. And first day came, and phones are ringing. And I answered the phone. Oceanside Lumber Company, may I help you? And the caller said, do you have Sherwin-Williams? Never heard Sherwin-Williams. And only one I could think about is the William, his name is William, sitting right next to me, and he is out to lunch. And I had to give a caller answer. So I told him, William is out to lunch.
Yeah, Sherwin-Williams is a paint.
Yeah, it's
right?
a paint store. You go to shopping center, you can see the Sherwin-Williams paint. And when I said that, the caller is quiet. And then suddenly there is a storm of laughter. I didn't know, frankly, why he was laughing like a crazy. I thought he was crazy, right? And then we hung up. Owner of lumber company suddenly showed up a few hours later. He is standing in front of my office and he's laughing like a crazy. I wasn't so sure why he was doing that. And then he called me into his office. And I thought that I am going to go home. Well, he is explaining that customer called asking for Sherwin-Williams paint, and you told him he went out to lunch? And then he is laughing and laughing. What a sense of humor there. Sense of humor can be like a glue. It'll bonding together one another. And he and I became such a good friends. So when you see any difficult situations, you can always come up with a sense of humor. Thank you.
That's a great story. I know. Well, your boss, thank God he had a sense of humor too, because some bosses might be like you're fired, right? But yeah, so you were lucky there, yes. Esther, I'm wondering, from your perspective, because of the generational difference from going from here to Korea back to the United States, now you're a mom, so what have you gone through in terms of that area?
How many hours do we have
Yeah,
to talk about all of this?
I can share a lot.
So I was thinking about your question, May, and I was trying to contextualize it for our audience members, our young adults here. And I was thinking about this intergenerational gap is really such a great offering. We all know, and I think your generation already knows this, that diversity is the bedrock of innovation. And so because this generation already knows this, but I'm curious and I want to expand our minds to really think about diversity intergenerationally also. And it's already there with your maybe younger siblings, your older parents, maybe your grandparents' generation as well. So just really staying curious in regards to that and knowing that it's a part of your history and it's part of your strength. And that's what will fuel your creativity and innovation, I think, is a really great way to think about it. As instead of something, these older panelists told us to think about, like respecting our parents. It's just a great gift. It really is. I've always enjoyed talking with my grandparents and learning from my parents. I was very close with them. I always wanted to understand their journey, how they came to the States and just stayed there for 9 to almost a decade without seeing their own families back home because it just wasn't accessible at the time. And so just really mining those is just such a gift that I guess we really get to have as a Korean American community. So that's one thing that I wanted to mention. And again, as I was listening to all the panelists, another thing that came to mind for me specifically that I wanted to press upon maybe to this generation is to really think about the world and your world not in a binary way. I really feel like the Korean culture tends to be do or die. It's really like just work hard. And there's a real just strong sensibility which it doesn't only have to be that. And I say this as a creative. I just saw my students perform in Susan Sunhae Stanton's play, We the Invisibles at USC. It's a lovely, lovely play. She's a Korean American playwright, and she wrote a play about immigrants. And there was this lovely line, I'm gonna butcher it, but it went something like this. The actors came out and said, I'm the warrior. I am a warrior so my children could become the merchants. And then this other group of actors come out and say, I became a merchant so my children could become the poets. And I feel like this generation, you guys are there because of, you know, all the work that the prior generation has done. And so by thinking about being a poet, I say this kind of in a creative sense, in an innovative sense. And in order to do that, I do feel that we have to think about this work hard and grind culture, this in order to get to that next level of leadership. So I would love to offer to our young adults, work hard and then play hard. But there also needs to be this place of rest and humor and curiosity.
Yeah, I chose a field like you, Esther, that is not common amongst Asians, especially Koreans, that are really focused on academia and success in traditional, sort of choosing traditional paths. So journalism, television journalism was out of the question. My parents were totally against me going into this field because they said, you are a woman and you're Asian. There's no way in hell that you're going to make it in this business that is mostly white people. And and that was a fact when I went into this field. So, but I was really committed. I felt something really strongly about going into this field because it was a creative, different career choice that I felt like I could do really well. But my parents were pretty traditional, just like probably a lot of your parents are. They want you to go into something that's safe, right, and reliable, will keep you comfortable financially. Nothing is wrong with that. But Esther's point
That's
is,
great, actually.
yeah, it's great. It's great. You want financial stability. But I think Esther's point, and I'm going to expand on this, is that you also need to feel fulfilled yourselves, right? You cannot live for others besides yourself. You have to be fulfilled. And of course, you want to make your family happy too. You don't want to go off the deep end and do something completely crazy. Well, maybe you do. I don't know. But this is why we want to build this foundation for you to be able to experiment and find what it is that you're drawn to, that you're compelled to do, that you enjoy. Now, some of you might be bored stiff right now, and you're hating being here, and I'm so sorry about that. But I hope that you are getting something out of being here. And your parents may have forced you to be here, possibly. They did it out of love because they want you to grow. They're doing their best to try to fill your head with something new and something different, not the typical standard thing that you might hear in school or in a book. All of you sort of dive into that in terms of the pressure that maybe you felt from your family. Justin, you talked about your father, right? But you also said that he allowed you to make choices too. So can you share a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so in terms of pressure, my parents did put a lot of pressure onto me, my brother, my sister. I'm the middle child in the family too. So for me, growing up, there was always, it felt like a competition, right? You're competing with who's going to go to the best college, who's going to be the best sports star or whatnot. And honestly, they did apply a good amount of pressure onto us. They said if you want to be successful, if you want to kind of the typical stereotype where if you want to succeed in life, you got to work hard and you got to study this times more than the other person to get to the next level, to be different and whatnot. But at the same time, it wasn't, when I was growing up, it wasn't like, oh, 6 p.m. to 10 p.m., you have to be in your room studying, doing homework. It was more of, you do it on your own time. My dad was very big on, my dad said, I don't care how you get the A in class, just get the A. Like, as long as you get the A, that's all I care about. He's very results driven, right? And so for me,
How was that for you?
it was good in terms of I didn't feel the pressure of someone micromanaging me every single day, but then my mom's a different story, right? My mom was more on the micromanaging side, literally there 24/7, making sure I was either studying, doing baseball, doing community service, whatever it was. But now that I look back at it, when I was like a high school student, when I was a middle school student, it was kind of annoying because, all of my friends were out in summertime playing with their friends and everything, and I had to go to Kumon or JEI, and I had to do summer class there for no reason, but I had to be there. So I was like, my summer is not a summer, it's a school year long.
Sound familiar?
And that's what I had to do. And then right after I had baseball, so then I had to play baseball. So it was just like every single day was a very similar repetitive nature, but at the same time, now looking back at it, I realized the reason why my parents did it was that when my dad first immigrated over here too, he had to support his whole family back home. So it took him about 8+ years to graduate college. He went to Cal State Long Beach. So for me, when he told me, oh, it took me 8 years to graduate college, I was shocked. I was like, wait, why? Like, were you not smart? Like, I didn't get it. And he was like, no, it's just I physically couldn't take the classes. I could only take 2 credits at a time because I was working 3 jobs. So when I started looking into that, and when I went to college, I didn't even work a job. Seeing that made me appreciate it a lot more because I can't see myself going to college for 8 years and working 3 jobs. That was something that was very eye-opening to me. And I thank him a lot for that because I know those are the little sacrifices and the reason why he put me into Kumon or JEI and all that stuff was because he himself couldn't do it. And he was telling me, I would love to gone to get tutors or done extracurricular activities like baseball and whatnot, but I just didn't have the time. My time was spent on working jobs, providing food on the table every single day. So that was probably one of the turning points on my side where I look back and growing up when I was a teenager, didn't really see the benefit of it, but now looking back, I'm very thankful. I feel like that paved my way in terms of kind of my work ethic, my mindset, and how I am today, whether it was when I was playing baseball or whether it's in business as well.
Tammy, I
Sure.
think you
We're
had...
talking about mental health, so I want to share. I didn't get permission from my oldest son, but I think he'll be okay. But my oldest was in college. He was in Virginia, far away. And he called one day and he said, I'm seeing a counselor because I don't feel good about myself. So he was kind of having suicidal thoughts. So, you spend, as parents, so this is more for parents as well, you do your best as a parent, try to have your children reach their potential, do their best, and get to the best college that will help them become the best citizen. But when he told me that he was seeing a counselor because he was having bad thoughts about himself, that stopped everything. That stopped, when are you gonna graduate, what your major, what you're gonna do after. Nothing mattered because I just wanted him alive. Okay, and I wanted him to feel safe and loved. That's the only thing that mattered at that moment. And I wanted parents to hear me saying that because when we're pushing our kids, we have to make sure that they're on board and they're okay with what they're doing. I didn't push my kids so hard. I was not a tiger mom. I actually did not have time or energy to be a tiger mom, but I'm sure I did the pushing, like just like anybody else. Not just because I'm Korean American, just because I'm a parent. But everything stopped, and I told him, you cut out all your activities, take out all your responsibilities. You're doing too much. So he did that. And then when he still was not well enough, I said, just quit college. Just stop. You can go to college later and try to finish, or don't finish college at all. You just need to come home. You know, you need to be, well, you need to be healthy. So I flew to Virginia because I had to see him myself, like, how is he doing? He had lost weight. It was hard for me as a parent, but that moment made me realize, you know what, nothing else matters for my children except I want them to be alive and healthy and well. It does not matter where they go to school, where they have a career. If they live with me the rest of their life and I support them, that's fine. But I want them to be well. So he recovered really quickly. So it wasn't a real, depression or there was imbalance, chemical imbalance or anything. It was more, I think, maybe, I was lucky that it was not a serious depression. But we have to recognize that. We have to recognize it in ourselves. I am so lucky that my son recognized it and sought help
And he
immediately.
told you.
And then he told me. We are close. Our relationship is close. So I thank God for that, because the fact that he called me and I was able to lift all the responsibilities off his shoulder. And I think as soon as I told him he could quit college, if that's what will help him, I think that made him well, actually. I think he felt like,
Pressure was
okay, yeah, I could just do whatever I'm comfortable doing. And so I wanted to share that because you need to recognize it yourself first. And you need to tell someone. And you may think your parents will not understand, but that's not true. They will, because they love you. And even though they're pushing you, bottom line is they want you to be well. Okay? So, recognize that and share. Parents know that there's a lot of pressure on them. Even if you don't give it to them, sometimes they feel it on themselves. So support them. Because if that moment comes, if you get that call, and you know that is serious, right? That's it's a wake-up moment.
Going to such an Asian high school, a lot of the pressure doesn't actually come from the family itself, but just from like the people around us and just like seeing everybody's competitive need to succeed. So just my question is, how would you better like cope with that, and how would you not get so burnt out?
Yeah, for me personally, I wasn't the smartest kid in school. I was probably the person that, I'm not a straight A student, and I accepted that. But the way that I kind of coped with kind of the pressure was that I worked on it by myself. So I was like, this is my goal that I want to hit in my life. I'm gonna try anything possible to hit that goal. I personally wasn't someone that was I didn't judge off of other people's kind of successes. I saw that was their own roadmap and I had my own roadmap. So what I did was create my own roadmap and different goals that I wanted to hit in my life.
And it's clear, right? Yeah, clear. You are you. There's no other you, right? So don't try to be somebody else, right? And I know we live in a society now where everything is on social media and there's constant comparison and why can't I do this and why is that person doing that and I want to be going to that party or we have to stop that craziness and focus on what is it that you want to do? Who are you?
I think you can overcome any difficulties, any pressures, because you have lots of potential. You really don't know what kind of a potential you have. Just look at me, how much I accomplished. And your potential is like an iceberg floating in the Alaska. It only shows a small surface, but underneath of the water, it's like a huge mountain. And that is your potential. You have to discover your potential. And I'm sure in your dream, you can find your magic wand. If there is a strong willpower, there is a way. And that's all I wanted to say to you.
Go to your body. What do I mean by that? A lot of the competitiveness and it's a lot about thought and thinking. And so have some meditation practices, very easy. Just a podcast that you listen to. Go out for a walk with your friends. Go hiking. Just somatically in the body, actually try and get out of your head every day as a practice. And that I think will normalize your parasympathetic system. So it doesn't go into, it feels like always a fight, flight, freeze kind of situation where you're feeling the pressure of competitiveness. Does that make sense? Yeah, okay.
Okay, here's the lesson. Talk to each other. Build those connections. Try to understand each other, okay? And it goes both ways. It goes both ways. And try to be a little bit more compassionate and empathetic. We need a lot more of that in the world, right? And it's been a rough couple of years, certainly, because of all the anti-Asian hate. But out of that, I think we're growing stronger as a community. And you guys, the youth, have a chance to really make a difference. So go out there and do that, all right? So thank you so much, everyone. Thank you.